All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. So obviously, we got our Prot Warrior video out of the way. Now we're gonna start talking about Brewmaster. I think as it stands right now, Brewmaster is looking like the best tank in the game for Midnight, and I think that it's definitely going to be sitting in a good place. Just the overview and the glance at everything, it looks really good. It looks really strong. I have not done any testing in keys yet, and I have not done anything to test out the strength of how it feels in the pre-patch. But let's go ahead and talk about some of the changes that we're seeing. All right. So first of all, we'll talk about our stats. All right. Again, not a whole lot has really changed with how we want to do stat alignment and how we want everything to work. Um, you're still going to avoid haste. All right. The worst. That is the worst stat for us as it stands right now. We're primarily looking for crit. We're looking for versatility and a little bit of mastery. All right. So, with that being said, if the piece of gear has haste on it, we're generally going to avoid that. But if we have crit verse gear, or if there's crit mastery, verse mastery, that is still going to work for us, and that's still going to make it so that we can be the most effective within our stats. All right. Gems and enchants again. I'm not going to tell anybody to change it. I don't think there's any need to change our stats as it stands right now. So let's go ahead and move into talents. All right. So I'm going to start with the hero tree. Obviously, I'm running Shadowpan. I have never used Master of Harmony. I've always played Shadowpan. I think that it's the most fun. I think it's the most interactive. I think it gives us the best options. And overall, I just enjoy Shadowpan so much more than when I was playing Master of Harmony back in the War Within beta. All right. So the the hero tree, it's a little bit weird right now. All right. So we get these three talents over here that are going to play directly into our Black Ox. All right. Some of these are good talents to use, but these over here are also very, very good. So you're essentially going to have to sacrifice three talents that you may not want to. All right. I think right now the most common is dropping Vigilant Watch, dropping Efficient Training, and that's it. All right. I mean, we could go into which of these you would drop to take this tree, but at the same time, I don't think that you have to be effective. I don't think that you need to do any changes. I personally am not going to be changing anything in my hero tree. I'm going to wait until midnight releases, and that's when I'll open up these three nodes over here. All right. But all in all, that's pretty much where we're going to stand with our hero tree. All right. If you do want to run these talents, you are not wrong. You're not going to mess yourself up doing that. It's one of those, what do you prefer based off of your own personal gameplay. All right. Now, let's get into the hero tree. So, we're seeing some changes to the hero tree, and we're seeing some fixes. We're seeing some talents got reworked, and we're seeing a couple of things that we can do differently. In all, this is what I have chosen to run. I do a couple of things differently than what a lot of people do. All right, I don't run chi burst. All right, I don't like casting as a tank. I don't think as a tank I should have to cast. And if this ever became an instant cast, then I would 100% be willing to do it. I'm running Chi Wave instead. I just think it's a better talent. It's easier to play around, and it's less for me to think about when it comes to playing Brewmaster. All right. We are still going to be going into some of these healing talents. You do want to make sure that you're getting that healing increase, and you also want to make sure that you have these free casts of Vivify because that can help you out, especially if you are doing bigger pulls, larger pulls. You're taking a lot of damage, any number of different things. All right. We did get a little bit more utility in all, so that's kind of more what I went for. All right. The next big change is Iron Shell Brew and Expeditious Fortification. These two talents, in my opinion, are now interchangeable. All right. I personally think that running Iron Shell Brew is going to be situational on how much are you using your defensives. Does your group complement you as a tank? Like, what is it? That's when you want to look at your Iron Shell Brew. Expeditious Fortification, I think that this is the best option for us to be running right now. I think that getting that reduced cooldown is going to be great because we did lose a lot of our defensiveness. All right. I don't really think we lost a lot of tankiness. I don't think that a lot has changed as far as like where Bruce stands as far as tanky. All right. If anything, we are more tanky now than we were before. So having Fortifying Brew on a reduced cooldown is definitely a significant help for us. All right. Then the last change to our class tree that I want to talk about is Diffuse Magic. All right, so it was that Diffuse Magic was a defensive that you could click, you could activate it, and you could use it pretty much whenever you needed to. Now it has changed. It is now a passive. All right, when you activate your Fortifying Brew, transfer all your magical effects on you back to the caster if possible, right? Or it's just going to get rid of them. All right, I think this is really good because if we're in a situation where we're taking a lot of magic damage or we're getting hit with debuffs that can't be dispelled, or maybe the dispel for the healers on cooldown, any number of different things, all right, activating our Fortifying Brew, that's going to make us even more tanky to get through the damage that's coming in. And it's also going to kick that magic back and work very similar to the way Spell Reflect does in Prot Warrior's toolkit, right? So, all in all, I don't think it's a bad change. I don't think it's a particularly good change, but at the end of the day, it is what it is, right? So these are the class tree talents that I'm running. This is kind of what I'm thinking is going to be the best setup for me personally as a tank. I am going to be playing around with things. We can definitely, you could drop your chi transfer and your diffuse magic in favor of getting your black ox or any number of talents that you want to swap into. Like there's so many options for us. All right. There's a lot of really good talents in here. There's a lot of really good things that I think are going to help us out a lot. Okay. Moving on to our spec tree. All right, so this is kind of where I'm running for the spec tree. One of the things that has changed is we now have a talent that is going to heal us for 50% of fire and nature damage dealt by us. All right. So this is basically just giving us a little bit more tankiness, a little bit more self healing. And depending on how it's going to work, it could feed into our stagger and it could also feed into just our health pool as a whole. Just kind of depends. It's gonna depend on one, how the talent's designed, and two, how is everything working for um healing a brewmaster, right? So that is definitely making us more tanky, and taking this talent is going to push us back into Breath of Fire. All right, so all of season 3, we stopped running Breath of Fire. I think it was just running it in Raid was the only time you really ran it. And we were taking Rushing Jade Wind instead. Some people were opting into Special Delivery. Situationally, how do you play? Were you able to keep up with your Rushing Jade Wind or not? Like, was it too much? Was it overwhelming? All right. So we're no longer taking those talents. We're no longer taking Celestial Flames, and we're going in favor of Breath of Fire. And then you're running either Scalding Brew or Salsabim's Strength. All right. A lot of people are taking Salsabim's Strength and they're pairing it up with Dragon Brew. All right. Me personally, I am doing the exact opposite. All right. I'm taking Scalding Brew. All right. Which is giving me more damage for my Keg Smash when people are affected by the Breath of Fire. And then to combat the fact that I now have downtime on my Breath of Fire, I am running Chartered Passions. All right. Basically, what this does is for 8 seconds, I can blackout kick and spinning crane kick, deal increased damage as fire damage, and refresh the duration on my I can refresh the duration of my breath of fire. Now, essentially this synergy of these three talents that I've chosen, what it's going to do is I can go in breath of fire, I can throw down my keg smash, and then I can immediately go into a single target, my blackout kick, AoE. I have a reason to push spinning crane kick again, right? So in all, the synergy of this is working together. Now, the other option you have is if you did swap these talents around, all right, then you're basically going to be doing more fire damage, all right? And you're going to get more uptime on your breath of fire. So I think these two talents being interchangeable and being able to be swapped around is super great for monks because it kind of gives a little bit more depth to taking breath of fire, and it helps us out because before you were pretty much locked in. You were going to breath of fire, you're taking the Celebrim strength, and like that's how it went. That's what you did, right? So there wasn't a whole lot of synergy coming from this area. Okay. One of the other things we're seeing is we're seeing kind of a rework of the way our capstones are working. Pretty much your capstones are going to be across the middle now, and then you've got reinforcement talents below them. I personally don't really like that. I think that the capstone should be at the bottom and there should be reinforcements above them to make you want to take that talent. But at the end of the day, it works out. We are taking essentially three of our capstones, and then we're taking some of the spells below them. All right, Keg is now towards the bottom as a capstone talent. I believe it used to be up here somewhere, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure. But anyway, so we have Exploding Keg, and that feeds into Empty Cellar, which a lot of people are not running. All right, I personally think this is a great talent. All right, because we can reactivate our exploding keg within 20 seconds, and it's 5 additional kegs, and it's dealing damage, and it's reducing the cooldown of our brews. Now, because we do not have as much defensives as we did before, and because we have to be a little bit more conservative with how we play around our defensives, that's going to push us into playing around our brews. Now, I personally think this is a great change. I think this is absolutely phenomenal, and I love the fact that they did this, all right? Because I like playing around my brews. I've always liked playing around my brews, and I think that that is just the absolute best way of doing things, all right? So getting reduced cooldown benefits me more with how I play. All right. Then we also have Fuel the Fire. Exploding Keg also causes your next 2 casts of Keg Smash to summon whirling flames that spiral around. So this is additional damage. This is a very taken talent. All right, and this talent, Fuel the Fire, serves to play into our same 3 up here, right? So you can use your Breath of Fire, Kegs, Exploding Keg, and then you're already going to be doing your keg smashes. So why would you not take this talent? Why would you not get that additional fire damage? Because this is also going to play into our vital flame, which is going to increase or give us healing for 50%. So basically, your next 2 keg smashes, you're going to get healed for over 1,000 health. And if that feeds into your stagger or if it feeds into your personal health, either way, that is a benefit, and that is going to change a lot of things for how you play and for how things go as a brewmaster. All right. So one of the other changes we're seeing is blackout combo is kind of being changed. All right. So it used to be that it would like play into damages and it would kind of boost everything, but now it's just a flat damage increase and it's a additional cooldown reduction, right? So what I think this does, in my personal opinion, I think this gives us the option and it makes it so that you can keg smash during your blackout combo and be okay. And it's not like it was before where you were wasting a blackout combo if you keg smash. All right. So I really like this talent. I really like this change. I really like how this is working. All right. Then a lot of what else we're seeing is like some damage increases, and we're seeing some utility increasing our dodges. Obviously, we're still going to take Black Ox. All right. This is giving us a mastery increase. I think that you could run Mighty Stomp if you need the extra CCs for your group or anything like that. It could definitely help, but I think it's a situational talent, and I don't think that it's going to be something we take every single time, right? Um, all right, so then the last thing is Celestial Brew versus Celestial Infusion. All right, so Infusion is generally speaking going to be a raid damage, or excuse me, a raid talent that we take, and it's going to help us with survival in raid situations. But because it absorbs 30% of incoming damage up to that 16,000, in keys and in Mythic Plus, Celestial Brew is definitely going to take the cake because this is just going to absorb that 16,000 damage outright. All right, so it's not. This is a percentage of the damage, versus the amount of damage we're absorbing. All right, so I think that that makes Celestial Brew 110% better, and I think that that makes us run Celestial Brew in keys compared to running Celestial Infusion. I know a lot of people are saying like there's no real change to that. You're never gonna run Infusion and keys. I ran Infusion and keys through all of season 3 and never had a problem. Right? So it's just, could have been luck, could have been any number of different things, but that's what it was. All right. So next up, let's move into our spell book. All right. So one of the things that happened with the changes is we lost a lot of buttons. I mean, it is insane how many buttons we've lost. Okay. Primarily that came from our defensives, but it's also coming from a few of our attacks. Some things got replaced, some things didn't. All right. The biggest change is there's no more Rising Sun Kick for Brewmaster. All right. I think this is great because trying to keep up with Rising Sun Kick and keeping up with your blackouts and keeping up with your Keg Smashes and keeping up with this and keeping up with that and keeping up with. I think the fact that we have fewer attacks definitely helps and it serves to slow the spec down so much, which for a lot of people, that is a very good thing. All right. Now, we did lose a lot of defensives. We lost a lot of it, but a lot of times we weren't really pushing those buttons unless we were in a very difficult situation. So there's there's not much of a loss. All right. Um, that's pretty much it as far as Brewmaster goes. We lost a lot of buttons. We slowed our spec down, but at the same time, like we didn't really lose a whole lot, and we put the value back in our
I don't have a
we put the
target.
value back into our brews as opposed to rolling defensives, which in my opinion is better for Brewmaster thematically and as a tank itself. All right. So let's talk about our rotation. All right. So, like I said, our rotation is very much slowed down, and there are a couple of key changes to the way that we do things. One of the key changes is the way that our flurry strikes work. So, it used to be based off of the amount of energy we were using. Now it's based off of keg smash. All right. So, one of the things that I was having a hard time with and I was struggling with was figuring out how I was supposed to do flurry strikes now. Like, am I supposed to hold my keg smashes? Do I not hold my keg smashes? Like, is this different? Is that different? What's changed? The best thing I can tell you is use your keg smash on cooldown and don't worry about your flurry strikes because you can essentially get 100% uptime, right? So when we go in, all right, the opener that I use is I'm going to exploding keg straight into my fire, put that on everybody. I'm going to keg smash, and then I have a reason to press my spinning crane kick and go into my tiger palm, keg smash. All right, and as you can see, you know, make sure we hit that second time. Then I'm not losing anything by pushing these buttons, right? So it's a lot slower, and like in our downtime, you're gonna spinning crane kick and when things are on cooldown. All right. So one of the other changes is how are we going to work our defensives? All right. So one of the changes that was made to the spec as a whole is we no longer have active defensives. All right. Again, I am not going to talk about precasting as a monk. I do not precast. If I get one shot, then maybe. But in general, I do not see a point to precasting. I don't see a purpose to precasting, and I don't think that it is completely necessary for us to be an effective tank by precasting, right? So, with that being said, the way our defensives are going to work now, you are going to go in, you're going to do your rotation, right? We have a talent right here that makes Vivify free after we cast our Keg Smash, right? Well, we're using Keg Smash on cooldown. So every 7.3 seconds, you should be hitting Vivify, right? Because that's automatically going to heal you. That's going to heal into your stagger. That's going to feed into everything. It's going to make you tankier. Now, Expel Harm, I generally try to have between 3 and 5 spheres before I use my Expel Harm. So if you're not really at 3, don't really need to use it. Now, when your stagger gets into the yellow bar, all right, and for those of you who don't know what stagger work, or excuse me, for those of you who don't know how stagger works, stagger is basically doing exactly what it sounds like. It is staggering the damage that we're taking over a period of time as opposed to us taking all of it up front. You have 3 different bars. You have a green bar, you have a yellow bar, and you have a red bar. All right. Ideally, you want to keep your stagger into the green bar. That is the best place for you to be, and that's where you're going to take the least amount of damage over time. Saves you, saves your healer. It's better, right? However, when your stagger hits your yellow bar, use your first stack of purifying brew to get it back down, and then consider using a defensive. All right. Now, our Black Ox does help with our stagger control, so we do want to keep this on cooldown as often as we can, especially in AoE pulls. But if your Black Ox is on cooldown, go ahead and pop your Celestial Brew. All right, so you would Purifying Brew, Celestial Brew, go back into your rotation, wait until your stagger hits the yellow again, then Purifying Brew. Just keep going. And if your Purifying Brew is on cooldown and you hit that yellow, or there's a damage spike and you go into the red, all right, use your Black Ox Brew. All right, but keep in mind with Black Ox Brew, this is on a 2-minute cooldown, and all it's going to do is it's going to give you 100% energy, and it's going to give you your purifying brew charges, and it resets your celestial brew. So you need to be smart about how you do this. Just because you use both stacks of purifying brew does not mean you need to hit your Black Ox brew. All right, you have other options, you have other utility. All right, you can use your fortifying brew. 15 seconds. You take a damage spike, you go up into the red, into your stagger goes up into the yellow, but you still have, 4 or 5 seconds left on your purifying brew. Well, then pop your fortifying brew, right? It's going to increase your health, it's going to reduce the damage you're taking, it's going to help with your stagger, it gives your healer a chance to catch up on your healing, and it also gives you a chance to get other things off of cooldown to get your stagger under control yourself. All right. One of the biggest things that people struggle with as a brewmaster is they panic. And so they start popping all these cooldowns and like they freak out. Like, you don't need to do that. All right. Your stagger gets out of control. Fortifying brew. Oh, Fort Brew is on cooldown. I need to deal with my stagger, but I still have 5 seconds left. All right, cool. Then pop your Black Ox Brew. All right. Super duper simple. All right. Now, as far as single target goes, we really are not seeing, there's honestly not much change. All right. Now, you are going to run some different talents. You're going to rework a few things. I am not going to do that for this video just because I haven't actually set up raid talents for my monk yet. All right. So it's the same thing. All right. So we have our single target. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to Exploding Keg, get it again, hit them with our Breath of Fire, Keg Smash, right, into our Blackout, go ahead and get rid of all of our stacks. And we're just essentially, I mean, it's the exact same thing. All right. You're going to do that. All right. Now our flames are back up. We're going to hit this, go into our spinning crane kick, then go right back into our keg smash. And we're not losing any uptime. We can fill the gaps with any combination that you want. You can use your spinning crane kick to fill gaps. You could use your tiger palm to fill gaps. It's all about what are you more comfortable with and what is easier for you. Personally, for single target, I recommend fill your gaps with Tiger Palm, but don't overcap on don't undercap on energy, because you want to make sure that you can still do your core abilities, which are going to be these 3 right here, right? And as always, keep your Black Ox Brew on cooldown, all right? Appreciate you guys checking the video out. If you guys like it, hit the like, hit the subscribe. As it stands right now, it's looking like Brewmaster is probably going to be my primary alt in the War Within, and it's going to be one of the stronger tanks to do things with just based off of how it works as a spec. Appreciate you guys. See you on the next one.